pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I have called the October 11th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, could you please take a roll call?
Tonight's roll call: Verhey. Here. Monaco is excused. Hornseth.
Present.
Staggs.
Here.
Ullman.
Here.
Charbonneau.
Here.
And Chair Sullivan.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have citizens' comments on any subject except those items that are scheduled for public hearing. Those who have signed in will be given the first opportunity to speak, and the time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll have a total of 36 minutes total time for the agenda item. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed in to speak?
There is. Carol Griswold.
Okay.
Carol Griswold, inside city limits. I'd like to speak to Resolution 22-015, the municipal plan. The muni plan update is a vast improvement over the 2014 plan and the draft update. I appreciate all the work and recognize that many of my edits were not able to be incorporated in a timely manner. I hope these will be considered next year. On page 183, I again urge P&Z to strike, quote, lease or sell campground with a sound development plan, unquote. The geotech results noting a burden of silt, unstable soils, and the location in a known AE flood zone, and the loss of a functional and well-loved campground, and loss of wildlife habitat do not justify this recommendation. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone else.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda, consent agenda. I will need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, do we have any changes or anybody have anything to that effect? Okay. Madam Clerk, can we have the roll call for the agenda, please?
Voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda: Charbonneau.
Yes.
Verhey.
Yes.
Hornseth.
Yes.
Staggs.
Yes.
Ullman.
Yes.
And Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved, and approved on tonight's consent agenda are the August 2nd, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have special orders, presentations, and reports. We don't believe we have any at this point. Next is the city administration report. I'll turn it over to Community Development Director Jason Bickling.
Thank you. Obviously with tonight's agenda we've been busy. Lots of work building up to all the things that are on here, and then the work sessions and the other meetings in the coming weeks will also be pretty full, so just been busy with a lot of different requests, and so that's really good. I did want to make a note about kind of our upcoming future schedule, because it does deviate a little bit from the normal. And next Tuesday, the 18th, is a holiday. It's Alaska Day, but on the next Monday, the 17th at 6 p.m., we have our joint work session with the Seward Bear Creek Flood Service Area Board at the library, and that's something we do annually. At that time, we will be reviewing kind of the new FEMA floodplain language that has to go into Title 15, and so ours has not been updated in a really long time, and so we're going to be reviewing that with them. And then normally we would have our November meeting at the November 1st, but a special budget meeting has been scheduled that evening. That's a very long and thorough one, and so, and then on November, so we were rescheduling ours to November 8th, and that will be at the library because that's also election day, and they'll be here, so it'll be at the library that evening. So, but that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, does anybody have any questions for community development at this time? No? Okay. We'll go into public hearings, and the first one we have here is the The first public hearing item is Resolution 22 of 2022-19. Madam Clerk, could you please read that into the record?
Resolution 2022-019 is recommending Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the preliminary replat of Gateway Subdivision, amended Tract B, located at 2109 Unimac Circle, creating Gateway Subdivision 2022 Lindquist Edition, lots 14 through 18, Block 8.
Okay. Thank you. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-019.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, administration, do you have any input, please?
Yeah, so this replat was submitted by Thomas and Heather Lindquist, who are the owners of this property. This lot is going to be subdivided into 5 parcels, lots 14 through 18. Each of those lots will be 20,000 square feet or greater. The requirement is a minimum of 6,000 square feet, which is a correction from what the agenda statement states. Currently, these lots have access to water and electricity. However, sewer is not yet connected to these lots. And Tom Lindquist has, according to Seward City Code, decided to, and this is in Seward City Code Title 16, .05.015, which states the compliance procedures for how the required public improvements need to be brought to subdivided parcels. And he is going to bring sewer to these lots either by doing number 2 in that 16.015, where it says the subdivider may elect to complete the required improvements after approval and recording of the final plat. Or through number 3, the subdivider may elect to form a special assessment district prior to any sales. So prior to any sales, the sewer will be brought to these lots through either the number 2 method or the number 3 method stated in Title 16. These lots have access from Unimac Circle, and according to the Kenai Peninsula Borough floodplain map, the lots are not within a flood zone. Staff had no comments or objections to this replat, and our recommendation is to approve the preliminary plat of Gateway Subdivision amended Tract B, creating Gateway Subdivision 2022 Lindquist Edition, lots 14 through 18, Block 8.
Okay. Anything further, Courtney?
No.
No? At this point, I'll open it up to public hearing. Madam Clerk, is there anybody signed up?
Yes, ma'am. Thomas Lindquist.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't want to comment on it, other than to support it.
Okay.
There's no one else signed in.
Alrighty, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, Mr. Lindquist, do you have anything, do you want to say anything at all? No? Okay.
Point of order. I believe you should ask if anyone in the audience wishes to speak.
I was going to do that next, but yeah, I will, absolutely, thanks, thank you. Okay, if he doesn't, anybody in the audience would like to speak? Ms. Griswold?
Carol Griswold, Inside City Limits. I sent comments about this to you, and I don't see any corrections. So on page 6, whereas the parcel widths and frontages meet the required minimum of 30 to 60 feet and 60 feet respectively, I would advise striking the 30 feet because that only applies to subdivisions south of Phoenix in the intersection of Seward Highway. So please correct that in the whereases and in the rest of the document. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So if there's nothing else in it for a public hearing, I'll close for comments. Commissioners, does anybody have anything to offer?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to slash that 30 out of there and clean it up to 60.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Any other comments, discussion? No? Okay, Madam Clerk, can we call for a vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Can I clarify where, aside from that whereas, that might,
I think there was 6.
There's one on 6.
where, aside from the whereas, does that appear anywhere else? Do we know?
Not to my knowledge.
Or just in the resolution?
I think it's in the resolution, because I think in code it's what Ms. Griswold had said.
So can you read, or can you make your motion to state how you wish that sentence to read, please?
Yes, just 1 second.
He's getting there.
I would like my motion to strike 30 from the whereas, so it reads, we need to require minimum of 60 feet. Respectful, yes.
So what you're saying is whereas the
Yeah.
parcel's widths and frontages must meet the required minimum of 60 feet and 60 respectively.
We don't have to say 60 twice, just
Yeah,
once.
or is it just the once? Because one is 30, it is 60, and 60 respectively.
Yeah, just want to make it clear that it's 60 and not less.
Because it's the width and the frontage.
Yeah.
That's what they're referring to.
Okay. So striking 30 feet with the,
But
30 feet to 60
60.
feet
Correct.
and the word respectively.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners?
Sorry, did we have a second?
Yeah.
Oh, I did second. And second
Thank
again?
Yeah,
Of
she
course.
did. Okay, so Madam Clerk, can we call for the vote?
Okay, voting on the amendment to strike 30 feet. Hornseth,
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Ullman,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That amendment is approved. Your main motion is back on the floor.
Okay, with the main motion, do we have any other discussion? No? Okay, Madam Clerk, could we have a vote on the main motion?
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-019 as amended. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Ullman,
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
All right, the next public hearing item is Resolution 2022-20. Madam Clerk, would you read this title into the record?
Resolution 2022-020 is granting a conditional use permit to Zimmerman Investments LLC to construct a triplex on Lot 42, Block 2, Gateway Subdivision, Addition Number 1, located at 2007 Dunham Drive, within a multi-family R3 zoning district.
Okay, I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-020.
I'll second that.
Okay. Administration, do you have any comments?
So this CUP application was submitted by Zimmerman Investments LLC to construct a triplex on his property located at 2007 Dunham Drive. This development meets the requirements for development, including lot coverage, which is a maximum coverage of 40%, the minimum buildable lot size of 9,000 square feet, and the setbacks, which are in a multi-family residential area, 20 feet for the front yard, 10 feet for the side yard, 10 feet for the rear yard. And it is under the building height requirement of 34 feet. The surrounding land use, lots to the west of the property are zoned single-family residential, and other surrounding properties are zoned multi-family residential. The property is not located within a flood zone. Currently, there is water, sewer, and power available to the property. The parking requirements for a multifamily dwelling are 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, plus 1/2 space for every unit larger than 2 bedrooms or greater than 1,000 square feet. Each of these units in the triplex are no larger than 2 bedrooms and not greater than 1,000 square feet, so the required parking space would be a minimum of 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Staff had no comments regarding the CUP application. The recommended conditions are that the applicant will work with city staff through the building permit process to address and accomplish any required upgrades and modifications. The applicant shall work with all city utility departments for any possible upgrades to the water, sewer, and electric. A minimum of 6 parking spaces will be provided on site. All parking and maneuverability shall remain on site for the life of the use. All areas not devoted to buildings, drives, walks, parking areas, or other authorized installations shall be covered with 1 or more of the following: lawn, grass, natural or ornamental shrubbery or trees. And bear-proof, bird-resistant containers shall be provided for all garbage and refuse for the life of the use. Recommendation: Community Development staff recommends approval of Resolution 2022-020, granting a conditional use permit to Zimmerman Investments, LLC, to construct a triplex at 2007 Dunham Drive.
Thank you. I'll open it to public hearing. Is anyone signed in?
No, ma'am.
It was not. Okay. Is the applicant present? No? Okay. All right. I'll close the public hearing. Commissioner comments?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to amend the CUP to require, instead of a dumpster, a 3-walled structure with a roof to house bear-proof trash cans. I feel that it would just really make this portion of the neighborhood look a lot better, having the trash, one, covered from snow and rain, but also just kind of out of sight.
Yes, because I see in the schematics that the dumpster's out in front, right near the road.
Yeah, and if it was covered and, looked nice with trash cans that are bear-proof, then it really wouldn't be an eyesore.
Okay. Other commissioners? Concurrence? Okay. I think I saw, if anybody that doesn't have anything else, I thought I saw something on here with the parking. There was some disconnect with the parking, and I don't know if it's been adjusted, that it was smaller. It is at this point? Okay. All right. Okay, if there's anything, anybody else?
If that amendment could be a motion
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pardon?
yeah,
Well,
we
then
need
make
a motion to add that.
Yeah. Can I make a motion? to
Yes,
add?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead and make a motion.
Yeah. Sorry, I have it begin. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to add to that CUP that instead of a dumpster, a 3-walled structure with roof to contain bear-proof trash cans.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other amendments? Madam Clerk, we have a call for a vote on the corrections or the amendments to the resolution.
Voting on the motion to amend to require a 3-wall structure. Verhey?
Yes.
Staggs?
Yes.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
Hornseth?
Yes.
Ullman?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes.
That amendment is approved. Your main motion is back on the floor.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can we have a vote on the main motion as well? That one?
No further discussion?
At this point, I think we're...
Okay. Voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-020 as amended. Hornseth?
Yes.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
Staggs?
Yes.
Ullman?
Yes.
Verhey? Yes. Chair Sullivan?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the next resolution, which is 2022-21. Madam Clerk, can you read this title into the record?
Resolution 2022-021 is recommending City Council and Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the preliminary replat, of Fort Raymond Subdivision, replat number 1, Lot 12A, located at 911 Hemlock Avenue, creating Hemlock Subdivision, Tracts A and B.
Okay, I will need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-021.
I'll second.
Okay. Now open to public hearing. Is anybody signed in for this? Oh, I'm sorry, out of sequence. Go ahead. Administration, sorry.
So on September 12th, 2022, the Seward City Council approved Resolution 2022-97, which authorized the city manager to execute a task order with R&M Consultants for the replat and rezone of Lot 12A Fort Raymond Subdivision. The reasoning for this is that the bike park situated on the southern end of that plat was constructed in 2019 and is intended to continue as such in perpetuity. However, in the Municipal Lands Inventory and Management Plan states that the recommendation for this entire parcel of land is to sell with a sound development plan. So in order to preserve this bike park as intended, the replat will separate the campground from the bike park so that the bike park can then be rezoned to park, which will fit its intended use much better than institutional. The staff comments, no department had any comments on this replat, and the recommendation from the community development staff is to approve resolution 2022-021, recommending City Council and Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the preliminary replat of Fort Raymond subdivision located at 911 Hemlock Avenue, which would create Hemlock Subdivision, Tracks A and B.
Okay. Now I'll open it to public hearing. Is anyone signed in?
Yes, ma'am. The first person signed in is Carol Griswold.
Okay.
Carol Griswold, inside city limits. The preliminary plat submittal form needs to be corrected. Item number 8 indicates that the location of areas subject to flooding are not applicable to this plat. But on page 51, the commentary notes that the parcel is partly within a mapped special flood hazard area AE and is also partly within the 1986 and 1999 Seward mapped floodplain areas. The proposed plat on page 55 does not show this required information. The preliminary plat does not require noting the zoning of adjacent properties. Please check the checklist on page 48 to make sure that all those items that are required are on the preliminary plat, such as number 4, 7, 8, 10, and 11, and those that are not applicable, such as 12, are appropriately marked. I don't believe this plat is ready to proceed. This replat would be a perfect time to change the physical address from 911 Hemlock Avenue to a non-emergency number for each new parcel. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we do have someone else, and that is Peggy Ventura.
Hi, my name is Peggy Ventura, and I own property in Seward but live outside the city limits. I watched a documentary on 10 Parks That Changed America on Alaska Public Media recently. An hour-long program that explained how important parks were to cities and why. Did you know Central Park took 10 years and 20,000 men to develop? In Savannah, Georgia, there was a park square every 2 blocks for each ward to enjoy. Why don't we take our resource, already developed and in use, and leave it combined with the basketball court and bike park, a place a family can be together. There needs to be a place for those in Forest Acres and close by to go without having to drive to enjoy nature. Why not make our Forest Acres a special destination for those who want to go out and enjoy a bike ride or a walk while visiting Seward? 5 million visitors a year go to New York High Line Park, developed in New York City, so that people would be able to become acquainted with the city. And it has to do with the history of the railroad there. We have a history of tearing things down and losing the things that make Seward special. I've spoken and written letters about the importance of Forest Acres, not only to me, but also the birds, bears, moose, squirrels. I love seeing people of all ages camping and sharing a campfire in the summer. The trees offer protection from our weather and a place for a quiet dog walk. We all need things that brings peace, and I want you to please know there are many of us that find a place under the trees, a place of refuge during the many seasons of Seward. There are other places to develop housing. We won't be able to replace these trees in our lifetime. Please leave the Forest Acres campground as it is and let the trees do their work to clean our air and be a place that is almost untouched as we go about our daily business. We need our wild spaces. As I wrote this, I tried to think of if there was anything I could say or do to help you understand how important the earth is in its natural state to those of us that are enjoying living here. And I don't know what it is other than to tell you that there's something about an old big tree and berry bushes underneath it. And just within the past couple weeks, 2 twin mooses on the corner right by the hemlock sign as they were eating. And I can't tell you what joy it brings me that we have a place within the Seward city limits where animals have a place where they're not getting shot at, scared away, or being herded out of an area where there's a lot of residential housing. They need their open spaces too, and they use it year-round. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone else signed in.
No one else is signed in. Do we have any representatives from R&M?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Dave Hale with R&M Consultants. I just want to say briefly that the subdivision is really just to tract out the bike park from the campground, and we tracted it, along the lines of occupation, and there's no development plan. They both have access, the campground from the north and the bike park from the south, so you don't need any more roads. There's no utilities going in. The intent really is to track these into 2 different tracks so that a rezone can occur for the park, because they want to perpetuate the park. You guys want to perpetuate. I think the community does too. So I really just want to reiterate that there's no development happening with this platting action, and what may happen in the future, we have no idea. It could be nothing for the next 50 years. So really, the action before you is just to track these out. And both of the tracks will be used as they are now. The trees will remain, campground will remain, and there won't be any change. I can answer any questions if you guys have any. Thank you.
Nobody else signed in?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Comments from commissioners?
Well, I don't know, seeing the separation of the 3 and bringing it into 2 different plats, it opens it up. It's like, okay, now we get rid of this part of what is holding it together and making it a park, and we take this part out. Now we can subdivide it and then turn it into housing. So I feel like the best way to keep it protected is keep it together. So that way it's not just this little part is going away, but now we're staying, the whole bike park is there, you got the playgrounds there, you got the campgrounds there. It's all one spot to me. If we go down there and play, we're playing at the park, we're walking through the campground, we're enjoying it all together. I don't see it as being separate parts. There's no purpose in separating it unless the intent is to eliminate part of it. So I would go against separating it to protect it for in the future. The comprehensive plan talks about, which is what we're here to support, talks about preserving the parks. So we're trying to preserve the parks, and this is one of the last parks that we have in town that may be something that we can get rid of, so we can turn into a couple houses that are fairly highly priced. But there's other options for housing. We don't necessarily need to get rid of a campground to do it. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Well, we wouldn't be getting rid of the campground. I think it's a fantastic idea because the bike park needs to be a park, and it needs to be its own unit. I at some point down the line, there's no plans right now to do something with the other park. It could be two parks next to each other, but it definitely needs to be its own unit. You know, it's a bike park, it's different than a campground. So I think it makes sense to segment this out and rezone a park. We're not talking about the other section. That's down the line somewhere, that's not even probably ours to talk about. Could be somebody else sitting there. We're specifically just speaking about this bike park and how it's institutional, it's industrial, it's institutional right now, and it needs to be a park. And so I think it's wise to draw this line and rezone it park so it can be that way forever. Later on, we can deal with the other side.
So why would we not just go ahead and rezone it all as a park, rather than separating it to rezone a portion of it as a park?
Because that's not in front of us right now.
So could we just deny it and have it resent back up to us?
You can if you like.
Different format
Good if you like.
to protect the whole
Yeah.
area as a whole?
We're just talking about the bike park right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing them
Yes.
bike park being separated for a reason.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at.
What you'd have to do is have this motion fail and then bring it back around to do the whole thing, if that were your intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other? No? Okay. Madam Clerk, I will go ahead and call for the vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-021, Verhey,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Ullman,
Yes.
Staggs,
No.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That motion is approved, or the resolution is approved, rather.
Okay, the next public hearing is Resolution 2022-022. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2022-022 is recommending City Council approval of the land use amendment to rezone proposed Tract B Hemlock Subdivision from an institutional zoning district to park zoning district.
Okay, I will need a motion and a second, please.
I'll motion for the approval of Resolution 2022-022.
I'll second.
Okay. Administration, have any comments?
This pretty straightforward. The proposed Tract B from the replat, which is the southern portion that contains the bike park, will be rezoned from, is proposed to be rezoned from institutional zoning district to a park zoning district, which would more appropriately fit the use that is occurring and protect its long-term use as a park. The recommendation by Community Development staff is to approve this resolution, 2022-022, which would rezone proposed Tract B Hemlock Subdivision from institutional to park.
Okay, I will now open up for a public hearing.
We do not have anyone signed in.
Okay, all right, is the applicant or anybody else present that would like to comment? Yes, sir?
I don't think I have anything useful to add. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have an opportunity to just have it, bring him up to the podium and ask him some questions on it too?
You can suspend the rules to do that, yes.
Okay. If the commissioners are fine with that, I'd like to suspend the rules for a moment or two. Okay. Thank you very much. So what I understand, what you had said and what we were going before here is that you're dividing them up into two separate plats. Nothing's changing. They're going from institutional basically to park on both. You're splitting it out. There'll be two separate sections and they'll both be identified as park at this point.
The southern one, Tract B, which is a bike park, will be park with this rezone. The other, Tract A on the north, will remain institutional.
Institutional,
Yeah.
okay. That's because I was getting a little confused when I was reading it out there initially, okay. Okay. Anybody else have anything? No? Thank you. Okay. So if nobody has anything else, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. My comments are already done, and I guess I'll go ahead and call for the vote if nobody else has anything. No? Okay.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-022, Ullman,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Verhey. Yes. And Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. The next public hearing item is Resolution 2022-023. Madam Clerk, could you read this title into the record?
Resolution 2022-023 is recommending City Council amend portions of Seward City Code 15.10.140B49, definitions, lodging, 15.10.226B, land uses allowed, modifying and including additional regulations relating to lodging, short-term rentals, and 15.10.226, land uses allowed table.
Okay. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-023.
I'll second that.
Okay. Administration, comments, please.
So this resolution would be recommending an ordinance for approval by City Council that would modify Seward City Code Title 15 regarding definitions of lodging, land uses allowed requirements for lodging, and then the land uses allowed table. The Planning and Zoning Commission has held 4 public work sessions to discuss these changes. These changes are with the intent to address the housing issue within the city of Seward. And we understand that regulations around short-term rentals is one of the many solutions to the housing crisis that the city of Seward needs to take in order to protect the limited homes available. The proposed ordinance is starts on page 89. And you'll note that there are X's in the ordinance number, since that will be numbered when if it is approved and goes to City Council, it'll be numbered at that time. But if you note in the ordinance in section 1, it then lists what those proposed changes are to the code are. New language is in bolded italics and underlined. Deleted language is stricken. I'll just point out some of the main changes. We'll be adding a definition for short-term rental. Then in the land uses allowed, we'll be limiting short-term rentals in single-family homes to be owner-occupied in all zoning districts, residential and commercial, and that's within single-family homes. Multifamily dwellings in residential zones would need to be owner-occupied. In commercial zones, they would not need to be owner-occupied. Then number 9 would require that an individual must wait 4 years after purchasing a multifamily dwelling before obtaining a non-owner occupied short-term rental permit. This also would add then the requirement for short-term rental business owners to provide proof of insurance, and it would add a fee to the short-term rental permit. You should have received a laydown which details some edits to this ordinance that were recommended by the city attorney. These edits are mainly grammatical errors, deleting parentheses that don't need to be there, correcting wording to make it more clear on number 9, the details surrounding that, to clean up a little bit the definition of short-term rental and add a definition for what owner-occupied would mean. So if you haven't looked at that laydown, I'd look through that before we make a motion on this resolution to see if there are any edits in there that we need to add to this ordinance before approving it or failing it. The recommendation from community development staff is to approve Resolution 2022-023 with these proposed amendments to Seward City Code Title 15.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it for public hearing, and is anyone signed in?
Yes, ma'am. One person, Carol Griswold.
Excuse me, Courtney, is that laid down available?
Yep.
Carol Griswold, inside city limits. I support the substitute ordinance with the following suggestions. Please consider making motions for these changes. On page 2A, delete the definition of bed and breakfast. This is simply another form of an owner-occupied single-family dwelling, short-term rental, which is already listed in the table. Lodging with the meal, etc., may not even apply and is unenforceable. I don't see any need to have a special category. It's confusingly called bed and breakfast. We're moving forward to short-term rentals, so I don't think it has a place in this update. Also on page 2F, consider replacing the second sentence with, short-term rentals may be hosted in individual guest rooms in single-family homes or hosted or unhosted in units in apartments, condominiums, townhouses, and multifamily dwellings. I think that makes that F much more clear. That second sentence is actually kind of hard to read with all this color over it. But maybe you can read it easier than I can. So it would say short-term rentals may be hosted in individual guest rooms in single-family homes or hosted or unhosted in units in apartments, condominiums, townhouses, and multifamily dwellings. And I did email these comments to you today, so hopefully you've had a chance to actually see them. On page 3, B1, the fire chief commented at the Monday night council meeting on this is Fire Safety Month and all that, and he had some great suggestions in his report in the packet. And I thought we should align our life safety inspection with his recommendations. So I've just slightly modified that. So if you're going to list these life safety requirements, change it to the presence of an operable and annually inspected fire extinguisher, an adequate and operating smoke and CO detection system on each floor. Right now, you don't have to have a fire extinguisher on the second floor. So that should be really clear that each floor should have an annually inspected fire extinguisher and adequate and operating smoke and CO detection system. And in my previous comments, I also mentioned that the stairs should be inspected. We have a few short-term rentals that basically use ladders to get to the second floor. And if you want to be a little more inclusive about life safety, the stairs should be inspected as well. On page 3, number 6, this is really important to me. The rental of not more than 50% of the bedrooms to a maximum of 3 within the principally residential zones. That has always been 3, and when we went through that update that was not approved, for some reason it ended up as 5, and those of you who were on the commission at that time remember then Director Jackie Wild saying, oh, I don't know how that happened, and it went back to 3 in principally residential zones. So I hope that that can be corrected here as well. That going to 5 I guess we're going to allow that in commercial zones where it's perhaps more appropriate. But in a principally residential zone, you are allowing, my neighbor has 4 units and 12 people are advertised on their website because they're packing them in. We don't really say what a bedroom is or a guest bedroom. So they're allowed to convert a living room with a pull-out sofa, and then they throw them in the closet, and there's a mattress on the floor, it's a trundle bed. So it's just too many people in a residential zone. So please change that under 3.6 to a maximum of 3. Let's see, is that 5 minutes? Well, I guess, was that 5 minutes?
Indeed it was.
Indeed it was. Well, I did submit the other ones by writing, so thank you for your consideration.
Do we have any other
No, ma'am.
sign-ins? Okay. Okay, let's see. Well, we don't have to worry about applicant since we're doing that. So I'll close the public hearing at this point. And do we have any comments from the commissioners and amendments if necessary?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to amend Resolution 2022-023 by adopting the substitute ordinance presented here later.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on that at all? Okay, for the substitutes ordinance, I will call for the vote, please.
Voting on the amendment to adopt the laydown substitute ordinance, Staggs,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Alman,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That amendment is approved. Your main motion is back on the floor.
Okay.
I would like to also make another motion to amend Section B, subsection 6, from maximum of 5 to a maximum of 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second that also.
Okay. The discussion? I've got to admit that I've only heard from before until recently that there was 1 to 5 and there was only 3 for years and years in the bed and breakfast world that I knew of. And I concur, in residential areas, I think it's a good idea to minimize how many people you pack in, because I've seen in some of these R1 areas and a few others that they're big homes and they put a lot of people in, and it potentially isn't good for the neighborhood, and just the traffic is a little bit tough there. So I would concur. Anybody else? No? Shall we vote on that amendment?
If I can, for the record, just clarify, that is Seward City Code 15.10.226B6.
Correct.
Thank you. Striking 5 and replacing it with 3. Charbonneau,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
Staggs.
Yes.
I apologize to Commissioner Verhey. I have been mispronouncing your name again, and I really apologize.
No worries.
Verhey
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That amendment is approved. Your main motion is back on the floor.
Okay. Commissioners, any discussions on further discussion on the main motion? All right, can we call for the vote, please?
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-023 as amended, Staggs,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Ullman,
Yes.
Hornseth,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay, I think we're on to unfinished business. It looks like we have none. And I believe we're now on to new business with Resolution 2022-015. Madam Clerk, could you read that title into the record?
Resolution 2022-015 is recommending City Council adoption of the Municipal Lands Inventory and Management Plan 2022 update.
Okay, I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-015.
Second.
Okay. Administration, do you have any comments?
Oh yeah, before I turn it over to Courtney, I did want to specifically say I want to thank the public for a lot of the input that was put into this document. And just for the commission for their time, because we have spent a number of work sessions on this, but I think that's what was required to do a heavy lift to bring it kind of up to this place where it can become this living document that is reviewed annually and is a meaningful document. And I did want to also thank Selena, because there was lots and lots and lots of hours done as far as updating maps and creating all those maps and the details that go on those maps. And so, but really this will be a document that we are working on year-round in different ways. And so, but this is the document that we last reviewed with no changes since that last review, but just we did add those sections knowing that we have still more work to do going forward, and we will continue in that work. So.
Yeah, and then just a note on the resolution number, it doesn't fit the sequence of the numbers currently because I assigned this number to it thinking that it was going to go on an earlier meeting that was then canceled. So I'm going to just retire this number. No resolution will be allocated to it, and I'll rename this resolution 2022-024. So that in legislative history, it will make more sense since it'll follow sequentially and the other numbers of the resolutions that were approved in this meeting.
Okay, good, thanks. Makes everything a lot easier. Okay, do we have any comments from the commission? With that, I know we've had a couple of new commissioners that haven't had to drink from a water fountain like this thing, but it was a lot. It was a heavy lift. It certainly was, but you'll get an opportunity next year because it's a living document. Oh, let's see. Well, I guess at this point in time, Madam Clerk, based on what the scheduling thing here looks like, it says let's call for a vote.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-024. Ullman?
Yes.
Staggs?
Yes.
Verhey?
Yes.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
Hornseth?
Yes.
And Chair Sullivan?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay, we have our other new business items, and it looks like, well, we have approved the August 2022 on the consent agenda that we have for our regular meeting minutes, so we're good there. I guess we're at the point of if we have any input from our administration.
I just want to say thank you for all of the work that has gone into like what took place here at the meeting tonight. And I feel like it's just the beginning of the good work that we're going to be doing together. And so we're already working on bringing kind of a list of other Title 15 changes before you guys to look like, hey, what do you guys want to tackle first? And what do you want to start digging into for kind of this fall, winter season and into the spring. And so, but anyway, just thank you for all of your work, and it's the community input. It's really great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any other input? No? Courtney? Selena? No? Okay. Well, in terms of informational items, just a reminder everybody, Monday, October 17th, we have a joint working session with the Seward Bear Creek Flood Board at 6 p.m. at the library, which is a much easier and nicer place to have a meeting. And Tuesday, November 1st is the regular meeting. Are we switching that? Is that going to...
November 8th.
The 8th?
It'll be November 8th. Yes.
Okay, right. I was thinking about that. Okay, so we're done with business, and now we're on to citizens' comments. Do we have anybody signed up for citizens?
There is no sign up for this portion.
Okay, that's all right. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Oh, got a few people here. Okay. Ms. Critchlow?
Why don't we let Jim go first? Well, all right. I can hop in. Okay.
Carol Griswold, inside city limits. Well, you can't always get what you want, but I would still like to emphasize some points that I think could be reconsidered. And that process is you can ask for reconsideration now and bring it up to a vote, and then you can move forward. Or you can do it up till 5 o'clock tomorrow, in writing or verbally. But some really important points. That plat for the bike park does not, it's not a good preliminary plat. It doesn't show what's required in the preliminary plat. As this moves forward, it'll probably be kicked back. But they do depend on you to do that work because they don't live here. So to not show the flood zone areas, to not show every single point that was indicated as applies, and to kick off the ones that do apply but were checked don't apply, it's really disappointing to me. That plat, compared to the Lindquist plat, is just really poorly done. So you can look through my comments on that. And I hope that administratively you can change the physical address from 911. Short-term lodging, I'm disappointed that B&B is still in there, and it's not sequential. It's not under short-term lodging B&B. It's bumped up a few, so when you're looking at lodging, short-term rentals, you won't see B&Bs. It's out of place. So that should be all lined up if you choose to keep a redundant B&B and archaic B&B definition in the table and in our definitions. It's confusing to not have it all be in one spot. Thank you for that reduction from 5 to 3 guest bedrooms. That point number 11 that I didn't get to, I suggested changing the sentence to immediately after purchase, the owner is eligible to apply for a long-term rental permit and/or an owner-occupied short-term rental permit. The way it's written is that they will obtain it. And they can't just be guaranteed that they will obtain this short-term rental permit. They'd have to go through some steps. So this says you will obtain it immediately after purchase, and that's really not the way it is. They should be, and this is going with the same language that was right before it, immediately after purchase, the owner is eligible to apply for that permit. And I also recommended changing individual to owner to be consistent. An individual is just anybody. It should be owner. It should be very specific. The legal owner is the one that can do all this, not just an individual. So in the short time I had, those are the ones that really popped up that I hope that you address. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald?
Thank you. First off, I'd like you guys to consider the boundaries of Seward. I actually happen to own the property that is the narrowest boundary in city limits to the beachhead. The city limits boundary runs 1/8 of a mile from the beachhead through my property at Nash Road. Part of the property is outside, part of the property is inside. And what I think would be appropriate is for you guys to take a position on annexation. I know that's a terrible word. There's tons of people outside the city limits that don't want to annex because they don't want to deal with the city. And it's not because they're happy where they're at, they just don't want the extra burden on it. But it's an untenable situation. You know, everything's 100 years old, our boundaries are 100 years old, our regulations are 100 years old, our sewage system is 120 years old, our electrical system is last century, and it all needs to be upgraded. But it starts with incorporating sufficient amount of land in it. It's pretty ridiculous. We've got Nash Road and we've got junkyards, you know, situated out there and, you know, things like that. And we have the Seward Bear Creek Flood Control Board that you know, was is taking care of problems both inside and outside the city, and it's just, that's a stopgap. I mean, it's the people that are my neighbors on Nash Road are as much as Sewardites as I am, and I know dozens of people that went to high school when I did or close to the time that have been in Seward for, 50, 60, 70 years, and they don't live inside city limits. It complicates a lot of things. One thing is, I will pick on your community development director a little bit, is enforcement. I'm getting the full brunt of the city's enforcement at my property. I've been hit by the borough this summer on the right-of-way. The city right now is giving me an ultimatum until the 24th of this month to clean up the right-of-way that just got created when I subdivided the property last year. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The right-of-way doesn't go anywhere. There's no parking available. It's just a right-of-way that was given to the city when they divided the property. They permitted the right-of-way even though it was full of Atcos and other trailers which are still there. And now the community development director is threatening more fines. I was fined 40 or 50 whatever on the right-of-way, and we finally settled that for a few $1,000s. But the city is pressing me hard, and it's not necessarily fair. Like I said, and a lot of it is it's area-wide problems, and I'm the only one they can pick on because I'm the only one on the city limits out there other than a Fognac and that whatnot. So I think you guys need to take a position on what's going to happen in the next 10 years, and it doesn't matter whether you guys do it or whatever, but the city limits lines as they're now drawn are untenable. They don't represent the people of Seward. There's just a host of problems with it, and a big one is actually voting representation. If you live out at Exit Glacier Road, you don't get to vote in Seward. My high school teacher, Dan Seavey, lives out there. He's been here for 65 years. He doesn't get to vote in Seward. And there's thousands of others out there. There are a lot more people outside the city limits than there is inside. And the other thing, you guys are talking about opening up the bench up there. There's no residential land left in Seward except maybe, multi-housing or something like that. I mean, you don't have the land. The only people you're going to get to move here are more summer owners that own homes for summer dwellings. They don't live here, they don't vote here. So that's your only option, and I hope you'll take a position in that, and I hope the city will take into account some of these difficulties, because I'm getting kind of pissed off. I really am being unfairly targeted. So we got that.
We have anything, anybody else, Brenda?
No one signed it.
Okay.
We don't have
Yeah,
signed it.
smile, you jerk. Get rid of that Nazi right there first.
Okay, well that,
On behalf of trespass.
okay, well, let's go on to the board and administrative comments. And response to citizens' comments. Commissioners? Anything to say?
I would like to thank the administration for everything they've done. This is an incredible amount of work they put into all these maps and rewrites and everything that we've been working with, and I know it's not always perfect, but it can be, and I think it's done a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Anybody? Well, I also want to echo what Nathaniel says, because you guys are doing a heavy lift. And as we continue to get more and more information, like I say, most of these things almost seem to be a living document all the time, because you can't anticipate or think everything through all the time. You have a lot of people, not if we don't have a lot of people, we have individual people who actually spend the time and actually care about it, so we can take that input and actually move forward and make it better for everybody across the board, I believe. So, thank you guys, I really appreciate all you've done, yeah. Okay, anybody else have anything to say? No? Okay, well, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:04.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.